Why does California, one of the wealthiest states in the world, have the highest number of homeless individuals in the United States? It's a question that leaves many scratching their heads. According to the annual homelessness assessment report by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, a staggering 181,399 people found themselves without a place to call home in California on a single night in January. But how did we get here? A significant factor is the growing disconnect between income and housing costs for low-income households. With the soaring cost of living, many people are finding it increasingly difficult to keep a roof over their heads. Furthermore, the lack of ongoing federal support for housing and limited availability of housing vouchers have added fuel to the fire. The issue is not just about providing shelter, it's about creating affordable, sustainable living situations for those who are struggling. The state of California has made significant investments in affordable housing and services for the homeless. Programs have been rolled out, funds have been allocated, and yet, the homelessness crisis continues to grow. The infusion of federal funding during the pandemic helped prevent a catastrophic rise in homelessness, but it's clear that this alone is not a solution. Tackling this crisis requires multifaceted efforts. It requires coordination between funding agencies, decision-making bodies, and service providers. It requires zoning reform to increase housing supply. It requires increasing federal funding, along with higher incomes, lower rents, dedicated rental assistance, and access to services. Despite significant investments in affordable housing and homeless services in California, the number of homeless individuals continues to increase. This is a stark reality that underscores the gravity of the issue we face and the long road ahead in solving the homelessness crisis in California. How does the lack of ongoing federal support contribute to the homelessness crisis in California? It's a heavy question, but one that's absolutely crucial to understanding the magnitude of this issue. To begin with, let's talk about housing vouchers, a key federal support mechanism. These vouchers are designed to help low-income households afford the rising costs of housing. Yet, their availability is limited, leaving many in need without this vital lifeline. When the number of vouchers doesn't meet the demand, we see people being pushed into homelessness. A lack of federal support in this area is, undeniably, a significant contributor to the problem. But the role of federal support isn't limited to housing vouchers. It also extends to funding. During the pandemic, the federal government stepped up, providing a much-needed infusion of funding, which helped prevent a catastrophic rise in homelessness. This shows that increased federal funding can make a difference. However, money alone isn't the solution. It's about how that funding is used. Successful efforts to combat homelessness require a well-coordinated effort between funding agencies, decision-making bodies, and service providers. It's about ensuring that the funding is directed where it's needed most and used effectively. Furthermore, we can't overlook the role of zoning reform in increasing the housing supply. Zoning laws, which dictate what can be built where, often limit the creation of new affordable housing units. Altering these laws could open the door to more housing options, easing the pressure on those struggling to afford a place to live. It's also worth highlighting that federal support is not just about providing funds or vouchers. It's about creating an environment that supports higher incomes and lower rents, dedicated rental assistance, and access to services that address the root causes of homelessness, such as mental health care and addiction services. In a nutshell, federal support plays a multifaceted role in addressing homelessness. It's about providing financial aid, facilitating coordination between various entities, advocating for necessary reforms, and helping create a more inclusive and supportive society. While federal funding is necessary, it alone will not solve the homelessness crisis. True change requires a comprehensive, multi-pronged approach, one that takes into account all aspects of this complex issue. Only then can we hope to make a real dent in the homelessness crisis. Remember when California turned hotels into housing to combat homelessness during the COVID-19 pandemic? Well, that wasn't just a one-time solution. It was the birth of two significant initiatives, Project Room Key and Project Home Key. These projects were driven by the realization that a roof over one's head is not merely a comfort, but a fundamental necessity, particularly in the face of a global pandemic. Project Room Key was the first to take off. This initiative was a rapid response to the potential impact of the virus on the state's homeless population. Recognizing the urgent need for isolation and social distancing, the state leased vacant hotel rooms to provide temporary shelter for the homeless. And it wasn't a small endeavor. Over 48,000 homeless individuals found themselves in hotel rooms instead of on the streets, drastically reducing their risk of infection and providing them with a sense of safety and dignity. But the state didn't stop there. Building on the success of Project Roomkey, California launched Project Homekey. This time, the goal was not just temporary shelter, but permanent housing. The state invested over $846 million to convert hotel rooms into more than 6,000 housing units. That's an average cost of $148,000 per unit. A small price to pay for a solution that could potentially transform the lives of thousands of individuals. These initiatives are not just about providing housing, but also about providing hope. They represent a significant effort to address the root causes of homelessness and to ensure that everyone, regardless of their circumstances, has a place to call home. This approach has been praised for its potential to scale up and make a significant difference in addressing homelessness. And it's not hard to see why. Imagine a world where vacant buildings become homes, where every person has a roof over their head, and where homelessness is a thing of the past. That's the world these projects are striving to create. Did you know that homelessness in California is not solely comprised of chronically homeless individuals? Quite the contrary. A significant portion of California's homeless population is made up of individuals who have recently fallen on hard times. These are people who, due to unforeseen circumstances such as job loss, medical emergencies, or sudden increases in rent, have found themselves without a roof over their heads. Imagine waking up one morning and finding yourself on the brink of homelessness. The reality is, it could happen to anyone. That's why addressing the issue of homelessness isn't just about providing for those already living on the streets. It's about preventing people from ending up there in the first place. The best way to prevent homelessness is by providing dedicated rental assistance and access to services to those who need it. Because when people are struggling to make ends meet, they often have to choose between paying for food, healthcare, and other basic necessities, or paying their rent. And when they can't afford both, they can quickly find themselves without a home. Programs like rental assistance can provide the support these individuals need to stay in their homes. These initiatives can help cover the cost of rent for those who are struggling, ensuring they have a safe and stable place to live while they get back on their feet. Access to services is also crucial in preventing homelessness. Services such as job training, mental health support, and substance abuse treatment can address the underlying issues that often contribute to homelessness. By providing these services, we can help individuals overcome the obstacles that are keeping them from maintaining stable housing. Addressing homelessness means not only providing for those already on the streets, but also preventing others from ending up there. So as we continue to tackle the issue of homelessness in California, let's remember that prevention is just as important as intervention. Let's not wait until people are homeless to offer help. Let's provide the support they need to stay in their homes and maintain their dignity, because everyone deserves a place to call home. So, what lies ahead in California's fight against homelessness? The path forward is multifaceted, and the resolution of this crisis requires a comprehensive strategy. It's clear that homelessness is a complex issue, intertwined with other societal factors such as income inequality and the high cost of living. To combat this, there's a need for increased federal funding. This will bolster the efforts of initiatives like Project Roomkey and Project Homekey, allowing for the creation of more affordable housing units. But the fight against homelessness doesn't stop at providing a roof over one's head. Alongside federal funding, there's a pressing need for higher incomes. A significant factor fueling homelessness is the disconnect between income and housing costs for low-income households. Therefore, efforts to address income inequality and provide better-paying job opportunities are integral to this battle. The cost of living in California is notoriously high, particularly when it comes to rent. Lowering rents, or at least curbing their rapid rise, is another important step in the right direction. This could involve a variety of measures, from rent control policies to an increase in the housing supply through zoning reform. In addition, dedicated rental assistance programs can play a pivotal role. These initiatives can provide a lifeline for those teetering on the edge of homelessness, helping them to keep their homes during tough economic times. But it's not just about throwing money at the problem. Successful efforts to combat homelessness require coordination between funding agencies, decision-making bodies, and service providers. It's about creating a network of support, ensuring that those who are homeless or at risk of becoming homeless have access to the services they need. Addressing homelessness in California is a complex issue, but with coordinated efforts and proper funding, it is a challenge that can be met. The road ahead may be long and filled with obstacles, but the potential for positive change is undeniable. Together, we can make a difference. Let's recap what we've discussed today. California, the state with the highest number of homeless individuals in the nation, is grappling with an ongoing crisis. The disconnect between income and housing costs for low-income households has exacerbated the problem. Federal support plays a pivotal role, but it's not the sole solution. We've seen initiatives like Project Roomkey and Project Homekey making strides in addressing the issue, converting vacant hotel rooms into shelters and permanent housing. However, it's not just about the chronically homeless. A significant number of individuals have recently found themselves without a roof over their heads due to hard times. To truly resolve this issue, a comprehensive approach is needed. This involves coordination between funding agencies, decision-making bodies, and service providers, as well as reforms to increase housing supply. As we continue to grapple with this issue, let's remember that every individual experiencing homelessness has a story. They are not just statistics, but people in need of support and understanding. If you found this information valuable, please consider giving it a thumbs up, sharing it with your friends, and subscribing to our channel for more content on social issues and community awareness.